What's up, Infected, and welcome to the Quarantine. Today I'm bringing you a Kickstarter game by the name of Ice in the Sky from Eagle Gryphon Games. Now, Ice in the Sky can play between 2 to 4 players, plays in about 15 minutes, give or take, and is recommended for ages 10 plus, all of which I would say is about accurate. Now, if you like what you see here in this video, I will have a link here and down in the description that'll take you directly to their Kickstarter page, and it'll be able to provide way more information than I could possibly cover in this video. What is Ice in the Sky? Well, Ice in the Sky is a fully cooperative, card-laying, limited information strategy game, I guess is probably the best way I would really describe it. So you don't know what your objective is, but you know what everybody else's objective is, and then they of course don't know theirs and knows what everybody else is. But you're not allowed to discuss your objectives, you're only allowed to tell each other whether or not they've achieved their objective or they're no longer achieving their objective. And that's all you're allowed to do, but then you have to do this without adversely affecting the environment. That's really the best way I can think of to describe Ice in the Sky, so let's just go over to how the game's played, shall we? Alright, starting out, as usual, I'm going to state that this is a review. It is not a tutorial, so I will not be teaching most of the rules. I will, however, give you a basic idea of how the game is played, so you can determine whether or not the game is right for you. And what you see here is technically a prototype copy of the game, so what you see here is, of course, still subject to change. So once you've figured out which one of the players is Bernie Sanders, the players are going to cooperatively try to figure out what everybody's goal is and try to achieve it at the end of each round by playing these beautifully drawn and illustrated cards. Now, if you notice, 2 of these cards' backs are facing you. You're going to draw one of each one of these at the beginning of each round, and this is your objective. So if you notice, we have east, northwest, water, earth, clouds. Clouds can only be played in the top tier, earth middle tier, water in the bottom tier, but any card can be played in west, north, and east. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to figure out what your objective is while still achieving everybody else's. So in this case, my objective is 4 in the clouds. So without knowing that, I'm halfway there because we have a 2 here starting out. So maybe I play a 1. And then maybe one of the other players, you go around in circles playing these cards, and maybe one of these other players plays this 2 and puts it over mine, and they'll look at me and say, you've achieved your goal. We like to use the word you're on point just because it's easier and faster, but they will say, you've achieved your goal. So now I know I'm either 4 clouds or I'm 4 west, because we have a 2 here and a 2 here and it's under west. But then maybe I go ahead and drop this right here and nobody says anything. Okay, so now I know that I am 4 clouds. But the problem is the more you want it, the most people at the end of every round to accomplish their goals. So the round is going to go on until everybody's played. I'm playing these in the wrong order, but everybody's going to keep going until you've played all of these cards. Once you've played all the cards, everybody is going to reveal their objective here. And then you will get 1 point for each player who has accomplished their goal. And then you will get -1 point for anybody who hasn't. So for example, if you're playing with 3 players, 2 people accomplish their goal, 1 person doesn't, you only get 1 point for the round. Then you will use these scoring cards, and you will say, okay, for round 1, you got 1 point. So you'll take this, set it down on the table, and then put this little where everything converges at, you'll put that in front of +1 to show that you got a point for round 1. And then you'll leave this up here and you'll proceed to do that with the rest of them. But before you move on to the next round, you are going to look at the table and see how many carbon dioxide symbols are still face up on the table. So in this case we have 1, so you would take one of these cards here and you will take it and toss it back in the box or flip it over, whatever you want. If you notice, that iceberg got a little bit smaller, and then the more carbon dioxide, the smaller that gets. Now, this is very important for endgame scoring, which I'll get to in just a second. But once you finish the first round, you're going to shuffle up these cards. You will take your 2 cards here, put them back into those decks, shuffle these up, deal them out again, and then you continue to play with new objectives using the cards that are already here. So start of round 2 or 3, somebody might just start off achieving their goal. So before anybody lays a card, you're going to want to look at everybody's and say, you've achieved your goal, and so have you. But that's all you're allowed to say. And you're going to keep going until you've gone through round 2 and then round 3. At the end of the game, you will take your overall score. So say we got 1 point in round 1, no points in round 2, and 1 point in round 3. You will then multiply that by whatever the condition the environment is in, and that is your final score. So for example, of course, anything multiplied by 0 is 0. So if this is ever revealed, just start over, you've already lost. So that is very important to keep the environment in decent shape. And that is basically how you play Ice in the Sky. So let's go to my final thought, shall we? All right, Ice in the Sky. Well, Ice in the Sky is a very interesting game. Earlier I made the connection with Hanabi, and I would say it's a fair one. Unlike Hanabi, where you're having to remember all these things, though, you only have to remember, okay, they said you were on point when you laid this card, so that means you're either this or you're this, and that's it. And that's all you have to remember. You're trying to help each other, but you also have to play every card in your hand. So you wind up having these really cool dilemmas of, do I play this card now that I could use later? That way I can let Michelle know that she's achieved her goal, or do I keep hold of it until later and maybe do it a little bit later, or maybe overwrite a carbon dioxide, or so you have all these really neat dilemmas, and it's a really neat little game. I didn't expect to enjoy the game quite as much as I did. Everybody that played it thought it was really fun. The more players you play with, the more insane that the game gets, because now you're having to accomplish 3 or 4 goals, and it just starts getting crazy. But it balances itself out, because you get minuses and positives, and then you get a ranking system at the end of the game. Depending on how many points you get certain types of victories, which is kind of neat. And then when you tack all of that on with the art style, is real pretty. It's not real elaborate, but it's pretty enough. But some of it's a little confusing. So you have the Aurora Borealis, and I'm pretty sure I butchered that. But for some reason it generates carbon dioxide, but a jet plane doesn't, and I'm not really sure why. And there's a bunch of them that do that. Like but then here you have an oil an offshore oil platform generates carbon dioxide, which it should, but then the train doesn't. And there's a lot of things like that we were playing, looking at why does that generate carbon dioxide? There's one in here I'm wanting to say it's a city. It's a very urban, Los Angeles looking city. Doesn't generate any carbon dioxide, but then there's a open field that has carbon dioxide for some reason, and that we all just kind of kept laughing about that. But overall, I definitely highly recommend the game. It's very simple. It's got a good amount of tension to it. It'd be great for kids. They'd have a blast. And it's got a good amount of stress to it, because you're looking at everybody's cards going, how am I going to get them to get their stuff, and then still figure out mine, and then maybe you figure out yours and realize you played the card already that you needed to play to be able to get yours, and nobody else can help you. So definitely a great little game. I highly recommend it. Anyways, that is my review for Ice in the Sky. Definitely pick it up. Check out that Kickstarter that I have the link up here and down in the description. If you like my channel, I have my Patreon right up here. If you'd like to support it, any amount of support would definitely be appreciated. If you're new here, stick around, hit that subscribe button, leave a comment. I make sure I read all of my comments. Give this video a like, and I'll see you guys next time in the quarantine.